The old man looked at the necklace around my neck and suddenly stopped breathing. "Where did you get that?" he whispered. I laughed because I had worn it since I was a little boy. My mother told me it was the only thing my father had left me before he died. But the trader's face told me something was terribly wrong. He locked the shop door, pulled an old ledger from beneath the floorboards, and placed it in front of me. "Your family has been lying to you for decades," he said. I wanted to walk out, but then I saw my grandfather's name written across the first page. If stories about family betrayal are your kind of thing, stay with me and consider subscribing to Family Betrayal. And just so you know, the faces, photos, and scenes shown in this video are visual recreations meant only to help imagine the story. The old trader pointed at my necklace again. "That belonged to a woman who disappeared in 1978. My stomach tightened. My mother said it belonged to my father. He slowly shook his head. "Your mother was never supposed to tell you that." I couldn't speak. He opened the ledger and showed me a faded photograph tucked between two pages. It showed my grandfather standing beside a young woman I had never seen before. Around her neck was the exact same necklace. Then I noticed something worse. Written underneath the photograph were 4 words: "She knows the truth." I stared at them until my hands began to shake. "Who is she?" I asked. The trader looked toward the locked door. "That's the question your family has spent 48 years making sure nobody asks." Then he turned another page, and I saw my father's name beside a payment that had been made only 3 days before my father supposedly died. I drove home that evening with the ledger hidden under my jacket, but I couldn't stop thinking about what the trader had said. My father had supposedly died in an accident when I was 8. For years, I accepted that story because my mother cried every time I asked questions. But now the dates in the ledger didn't make sense. There were payments listed every few months, all connected to my grandfather's antique business. Some went to lawyers, some went to hospitals, and one went to a woman whose name I recognized immediately. It was my Aunt Clara. I hadn't spoken to her in almost 10 years. I called her that night. She answered after the second ring. "Why are you asking about Dad's old business?" she said before I even mentioned it. My blood ran cold. "How did you know that's what I wanted?" Silence. Then she whispered, "Where did you get that ledger?" I didn't answer. She started crying. "You need to burn it." That sentence changed everything. I asked her why, but she refused to explain. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Your father didn't die the way they told you." The call ended. I sat alone in my kitchen, staring at the necklace in my hand. For the first time in my life, I wondered whether the people who raised me had built my entire childhood around a lie. The next morning, I went back to the antique shop, but the doors were locked. A handwritten note was taped to the glass. It had only one sentence. "They found out you came here." I stood there frozen. Then my phone rang. It was my mother. Her voice was trembling. "Son, come home. We need to talk before someone else gets hurt." My mother was waiting in the living room when I arrived. She looked older than she had the night before. I placed the ledger on the table. She stared at it for several seconds, then covered her face with both hands. "I prayed you'd never find that," she said. I felt anger rising inside me. "You told me Dad died in an accident." She didn't deny it. Instead, she opened a drawer and pulled out an envelope with my name on it. Inside was a letter from my father, dated 2 weeks before his supposed death. He wrote that he had discovered someone inside the family was secretly selling valuable antiques and falsifying ownership records. He believed my grandfather was involved, but he had proof that another person was controlling everything. My father had planned to expose them. Then the letter stopped abruptly. The final line said, "If anything happens to me, protect my son from Clara." I looked at my mother. "Aunt Clara?" She nodded through her tears. She wasn't the person behind it. My heart dropped. Then who was? She wouldn't answer. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. 3 slow knocks. My mother grabbed my arm. "Don't open it." We heard a man's voice outside. "I know you're in there." I recognized that voice. It belonged to the old trader. My mother looked terrified. I opened the door anyway. He stepped inside holding another box. "Your father trusted me," he said, "and I failed him." Inside the box was a second necklace, identical to mine. He told me the woman in the photograph was my grandmother's sister, Evelyn, who had discovered that my grandfather had stolen a priceless collection from her and then declared her mentally unstable when she threatened to expose him. But the biggest secret was still hidden. Evelyn hadn't disappeared. She had spent decades living under another name. And according to the trader, she had left one final message for me. The message was recorded on an old cassette. My hands were shaking when I pressed play. An elderly woman's voice filled the room. If you're hearing this, then you finally found the truth. She explained that my father had discovered the family crime and tried to expose it. But before he could, someone threatened my mother and me. My father agreed to disappear temporarily so we could be protected. The accident story had been created to keep us safe. He had been alive for years, watching from a distance. But he never returned because the person behind everything had threatened to destroy our family if he did. Then Evelyn revealed the final truth. The necklace I had worn since childhood wasn't simply jewelry. Hidden inside its pendant was a tiny key. That key opened a safe belonging to my grandfather. The trader took me to an old bank the next morning. Inside the safe were original ownership documents proving that my grandfather had stolen the antique collection and blamed Evelyn. There were also letters proving that my father had tried to correct the crime. But the final envelope contained something I never expected, a recent photograph of my father. He was alive. I broke down when I saw his face. All those years I had mourned a man who had secretly been trying to protect me. The trader finally told me where he was. I found my father in a small town several hours away. When he opened the door, neither of us spoke. We just stared at each other. Then he whispered, "You got your mother's eyes." I couldn't hold back my tears. I asked why he never came home. He said, "Because every time I wanted to, I remembered what they promised to do to you." We spent hours talking. The family secret was finally exposed, but I realized revenge wasn't what I wanted. I wanted the truth to belong to everyone who had been hurt by the lie. We turned over the documents to the authorities, and the stolen collection was eventually traced back to its rightful owners. Clara testified too. My mother finally stopped carrying the guilt alone, and my father came home. The necklace stayed around my neck, but it meant something completely different now. It wasn't a symbol of a family secret anymore. It was proof that the truth can survive even when people spend their whole lives trying to bury it. If you had discovered that your entire childhood was built around a lie, but exposing the truth could destroy the people you loved, what would you have done? For me, I learned that family isn't about protecting a lie. It's about having the courage to face the truth and choose what is right afterward. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't hurting the people who betrayed you. It's refusing to become like them. Tell me in the comments what you would have done in my place, and share this story with someone who believes the truth always finds its way home. And if you want more emotional family stories like this, subscribe to Family Betrayal. Because sometimes the secret that breaks a family is also the truth that finally sets someone free.